Welcome everyone to the SuperCoach Hub BBL pod. My name's Nathan Scoble. You can find me on X at ScobieBryant36. Tonight we have the Myth, SuperCoach Edge, Damo J88, and we have Daz on tonight to discuss all things SuperCoach. Gentlemen, would you like to introduce yourselves? Tell us a little bit about yours.
Hey guys, Myth. I've been around the SuperCoach community a little while now, mainly BBL and NRL, and just trying to get another personal best this season. Tough season so far.
Can I jump in there and ask what the PB is?
Oh, Big Bash.
Yes.
260 odd, I think.
Very nice, very nice. Damo, what about yourself?
G'day, boys. Thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure having a bit of a chat to you, lads, especially in the little private Twitter group that we got going with Podmaster. So good fun. But yeah, I've been around the trap. Some people might know me predominantly through AFL SuperCoach. I'm an absolute fiend for all things SuperCoach, BBL as well, obviously. And we've got our own podcast, SuperCoach Edge, as you can see there. And yeah, I guess personal best with BBL SuperCoach. I've been pretty fortunate to finish inside the top 1,000 for, I think it's the past 4 years running, and got a best of 337 back in the 2020-2021 season. But yeah, bread and butter is probably my knowledge with AFL. And I finished 147th back in 2019 as the PB there. But yeah, it's always good fun, BBL. It's very different to AFL, and I imagine NRL, which I don't play, which some of you boys may. But yeah, it's just absolute carnage, as you said, Myth, so far this year. And news with just breaking today with Tom Curran, a bit of a curveball there.
Absolutely. We'll get to that in just a second. But Daz, tell us a little bit about yourself, mate.
Hey, g'day, guys. My name's Daz. Ex-Twitter, I go by LargsPiers. Slog the Maidens, my BBL team name. So I'm a North Queensland lad. Love my sport. BBL and NRL are my SuperCoach loves. It's my 4th year playing BBL. My first year I came 42nd. Second year I came 15th. And last year I came 337th. So I'm hoping 4th year I can get back in the top 100, top 50 or a little bit better. But yeah, just love to have a chat, and I really like the BBL. It's but yeah, nice carnage. 2 rounds in and everything's happened.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I think as anyone switched on and has access to the internet will know, Tom Curran's been a bit of a goose. Some people may think it's fair or it's not fair, depending on how you view it or how much cricket you've played. What do we all think about that? What happened? What did we do? Who did we deviate to? Did we just take an E-score? What happened there? Myth, what happened?
I got pretty fortunate with it. So I had Harper out in my trade plans after McDermott was not a loopable score, so that brought Billings back in. So I ended up deviating Curran back to Harper, which brought Fraser McGurk onto the field. So very happy watching him on my field tonight instead of watching him whilst he's sitting there rotting away on my bench.
Oh, okay. Well, just to butt in, I've got a sob story. I boosted and bought in Quinton de Kock, thinking I'm a genius. Surely he'll be able to get something out there. Have an extra play for next week. And it turns out that as soon as a South African comes to Australia, they lose all their cricketing ability. So that's wonderful. The game's still going, so hopefully maybe we can get a few dismissals, maybe a stumping here and there. Damo, how'd you go, mate? How did you combat the issue?
Yeah, it was a bit of a sliding doors moment for me. I had the choice of choosing between benching Curran and putting on McGurk, the Rooster. Didn't do that. I ended up reversing in a sense the trade that I'd done by punting Munro. So I brought Munro back into my team and opted to get rid of Curran. But hopefully, I guess the appeal there, -28 break even for Munro. There's a bit of easy cash to be made there, but kicking myself that I didn't go down the same route as yourself, Myth, and back in the Rooster. But oh well, just glad I've got him because I think he's going to go up around about 25k off the back of tonight's game.
Yeah, it looks like he's locked that top order spot in, doesn't it? I know a few people were a bit worried about Sauce coming back in, but it seems that the Renegades have actually woken up there and realised that if he bends down too far in the shower, his hammies are just going to go absolutely twang, and that career's over. I shouldn't say it's over. I'm sure he'll be back, but I guess for the future, he's definitely one to watch. Daz, how'd you go, mate?
I hit the reverse and I bought Nessa back in, so I already had Rooster, so I didn't need to get him, and was humming and hawing about Munro, but I was having a pretty good round, so I thought I'd go the bowler, try and get the points. But yeah, so I went the bowler over the batter, and I should have realised that his New Zealand captain doesn't like bowling him. So anyway, let's hope Ness gets a little bit of a bat and take a few runs. It would be nice, but I'm not really sure what's going on there. That's another game to 2 overs, so interesting.
It is interesting. You think someone of that quality would at least be a lock to have three overs down, especially when you roll out a maiden.
100%.
It's a bit interesting. I think maybe there might be a little bit of soreness still there, so still fairly capable to play, but they don't want to push him too hard. And at one stage, it didn't really look like he needed to bowl. They've restricted him fairly well as game's still going. Just a little bit of, I guess, housekeeping before we continue. So the SuperCoach Hub's going to be recording 2 podcasts per round when possible. Obviously, for our listeners, I'm sure that they can understand that we might miss 1 or 2 just because of the Christmas period. Everybody's got stuff on. Everybody's got families, presents, Santa-like activities that they need to attend to. So we'll be recording prior to the round finishing, so people can tune in early tomorrow morning for the round that starts later that day. And the second podcast will be hosted by SuperCoach Guns. I'm sure if you're on Twitter or X, as I guess it's now known as, which is a little bit interesting. SuperCoach Guns, he's going to be recording one tomorrow, and he's going to be answering more questions, community results, break-evens, trade trends, after the game has opened up. So that'll be fantastic. And obviously, I forgot to mention that Damo actually is the special guest for this week. And hopefully, we've got a few lined up. So every prior to the round finishing podcast, we'll have someone on, talk a little bit of business here and there. Firstly, want to get straight into it. Who are we targeting for next game round? Myth, what are we thinking?
Well, obviously, we're going to load up on Gades and Stars with them being on the double. So they're going to be the priority. I think a lot of us already have a lot, though. So I think a lot of people already have Chief. Zampa's popular. JFN, most of us are going to have him, at least from a cash generation perspective. Maxwell. I'm starting to go, how many more do you want? Quinton de Kock was the obvious one, but after his low score tonight, his break even with the low score and the 10 from last game in his average. Do you take him? I'm not sure. I was pretty close to locking him in. Might take a look at Rogers. They're probably the Gades I'm looking at. And Stackety, I think, from the Stars is another one that I'm pretty keen on. But the Thunderbats are intriguing me on that Albury pitch. 400 runs last year in Melbourne at that game. So I think I'm more leaning towards getting a Thunderbat in early as well.
Could that potentially maybe an Alex Hales closer to 100K?
I'm more interested in Bancroft or Ollie Davies. I think the one thing I'm seeing this season is the form batters are the ones that seem to be doing well. And I mean, Bancroft's form's ridiculous, so I'm finding it hard to turn that down. He's probably the number 1 on my pecking order this week, I think. That's
understandable. I just Alex Hales always seems to pop, doesn't he? Doesn't matter where he is. I know this year his form has been a little bit disgusting, to put it lightly. But in all fairness, he did cop an absolute viper from the King, Matty Short, which left him all ends up. So it's okay to be embarrassed by someone of that caliber. That's okay. We can forget about that. But I just think, speaking about the Thunder, surely he will be highly up on the list of people to bring in. Damo, what are you thinking for the next round? Are we loading up on the Gades or are we loading up on the strikers? What's your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, so I've tried to plan ahead at least for the next 3 rounds, and it's already been thrown for a bit of a curveball just because of good old Cuz, Tom Curran. He's stuffed things up. But I've already I'm fortunate enough to I brought Southo in this round and already had Richo, Zampa, and the Rooster McGurk, and started with Maxwell and Stoinberg as well. So I think at this stage, I much prefer. I mean, it's probably a given considering the Stars haven't been too crash hot in their opening couple of games. But yeah, maybe load up on a couple of extra Gades. I'm thinking at this stage, I was penciling in De Kock, but he was absolutely the shit tonight. He was just out of sorts, as you mentioned. So I don't know if we'll be going down that route again, but you'd think he'd be highly owned. So at least it kind of negates the risk there if you do go for him. And do you want to really miss out on him if he does turn things around? Rogers is another one that I'm a big fan of. Just his work with the ball and pretty handy with the bat, as we saw tonight as well at various stages. So don't mind Rogers. I think I'll probably pass up Clark just because I've got almost too many batsmen anyway, I think, with Southo and McGurk, especially at the top of the order there. So I might opt for another Stars player, especially considering they've got a double coming up in round 5. So I might go down the route of potentially Steck Daddy. He's a personal favourite of mine when he was at the Heat. So might go with Steckity as my other sort of in. But I do like the thinking as well, as Myth mentioned, just going early on a Thunder player, especially someone that's in form like a Davies, who he's kind of like, he's almost Fraser McGurk has kind of emulated him in a sense that burst on the scene and, he's kind of hit his straps now and really do like the look of him. So might think about bringing him in early, but just have to have a look at break evens, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, speaking about the Thunder players, I think Bancroft would have a relatively lower break even currently. Davies, I'm not too sure on that. I know that Hales would obviously be relatively high, so you could probably still wait a week on that. Even Sam's as well, but I guess that's a question for another day. Like, do we really even want Sam's currently? I think it's a big decision if you were going to fade him, just basing that off the name. But I'm sure that's one that can come up in the future. Daz, what are you thinking about Gades and Stars? Has there anyone that's popped up, changed your mind or anything like that?
There's been a few. I'll give you a live update while we're there. Munro just hit 2 sixes off his first 2 balls and then got LB gone after review. So out for 12.
Yeah.
Of course. So that's cash gen gone. If you weren't already planning to trade him on the buy, yes?
Yep, time to go. But yeah, I'm sort of similar to the guys. Quentin de Kock was my target. I guess I'll have to rethink that. I have Billings and Whiteman up there, so I have to go on someone. So I might just have to take the punt. I was hearing people trading out Maxwell this week, which personally think are absolutely ludicrous. But if people have done that, then I think he's your main target for the Stars. I think that's pretty obvious. He's go back. Yeah, I'm big on Steckity. Like the other lads mentioned, I was going to start with him if he played the first game. So he's definitely in for me. I'm still not totally against Ralph and Murr, even though they're going to play the double and then they go. Mainly for me because I've got 4 or 5 Gades already. So I don't know. I'll have to weigh it up. I don't mind them. I think the Stars can't be as bad as they have been, and the bowling attack you'd think is stronger with a few back. I'm likely going to boost next week as well, so I'll have a look. If Chowdhury gets another game, I might go him for cash, and then Thunder. I think if you haven't got Tanvir, he's your number one target. I like the shout of Bangers and Ollie Davies, although I'm not sure what price Bangers is. I think he's pretty expensive, but Ollie looks pretty good. Hales will be very cheap, and Sam's will be cheap. So yeah, there's quite a few there. I guess it just depends on what you're looking for, how many you've got in each of the teams, and whether you think the Stars can can do a little bit better with what they've got. But definitely Steckity for me, and more than likely I'll go Quentin de Kock. He's got 2 more chances to get some sort of runs. So I mean, you'd think the odds are he'd get one out of the 2, maybe not. But yeah, I'll probably give him a go and see how I go with the others. But I'm sure we'll get to this, but who I cut from the strikers is going to be the next question, though.
I dare say that Matt Short won't be in those trade out plans. Surely that can't be an option. It is a lot of money, but how do you get him back? He's just shown in one game that he can eclipse a 144 break even. Best role in the game. But I'm sure we'll talk about that later. Personally, myself, I need to get Fraser McGurk in. I just thought that Sauce would come back in. Like the man, as soon as it's BBL time, he just turns up. And he seems to just go to one training session, rock out to the middle, and actually play half decent. Which I was a bit surprised that he hasn't been picked, which is obviously fantastic for Fraser McGurk. I've currently got, as I said earlier, I boosted Quinton in for Curran after the news that he wasn't playing, and that's turned out like a hot bag of coal. So I'm stuck with him, and I'm stuck with a price drop, which is exactly not what you want in this short format of the game. I've also got Zampa, Maxi, and also Sutherland, and I think that's a good spread to have. We spoke about Steckity. He's definitely on the radar. Bo Webster as well. Kane Richardson also. There's quite a few there that I guess they catch your eyes. But I've always been, cognizant of the fact that just because you have so many double game week players doesn't mean that you're actually going to score well. And I'm sure we've all seen it, that we have a double game week player and they punch out a 75, and you've got someone on your bench that's, had a fantastic game and they've ripped out a 130. And you just think, well, I didn't really need to go that hard on them. And it can kind of hamper future plans. I do have one question for everyone that relates to a star. Marcus Stoinis seemed to bowl last game. Surely not. Surely no one's jumping on that. What do we think, Myth? Are we in, or are we not touching it with a 10-foot pole?
I think those exact words is what I described Stoinis is how I described Stoinis on the first pod. I think I said, I think he was my tip or my bold call that he would score under 50 in the week 1. I'm pretty sure he ended up on 28 or something. He's just, he's not in form. He's not the same player he was. He bowled himself when he was the captain. Maxi's going to be back and captaining, and Bo Webster didn't get a bowl last time either. If they run with 4 bowlers plus those 3, I'd be more leaning to getting in Bo Webster than I would be to getting in Marcus Stoinis.
Yeah, fair. I completely agree. Don't get me wrong, he has been absolutely amazing at the top end of the lineup when he has been opening and when he has been bowling. But I have no idea how this bloke is even in the conversation for Australia's T20 team. I fail to understand what he offers with the ball. I'm fairly confident that they could pick a local cricketer and they could do the job the same as him, if not better. Some of his bowling is just very questionable, to say the least. And the fact that he bowled himself, that personally just screams, I'm the captain, listen to me, do what I say. If I say jump, you say how high type of operator. And I think as soon as Maxi's back, those overs will be either going to Maxi or hopefully, as we spoke about, Bo Webster. Damo, what are you thinking? Is Stoin in or is Stoin out?
I am at pains to say he's actually in my side at the moment because I started with him. But if he wasn't coming up to a double game round, he would have been on the trade agenda for me, just because he's not offering what he used to, like what you boys just spoke about. He's not the same bloke as what we know. He was almost that, lock and load almost, which is funny to say in BBL SuperCoach because of, how volatile it can be. But yeah, he's just sort of whittled away. He's back to the pack now. And because he doesn't have that, he's almost every season on season, and it's probably happened for the past 4 or 5 seasons in a row where coming into the tournament, it's like, there's potential that he may bowl. He's carrying some sort of niggle. And then, once the tournament starts, a couple of whispers, he might get a bowl, and just doesn't. And when he does, he just doesn't look as lethal as what you think he should be with the weapons that he can provide. So I've got him, but as silly as it probably is to say, even though he's on a double, I'm actually thinking of potentially putting him on the bench and having a bit of a first look at him just in case he does bomb it. But in terms of his ownership, I think, it's probably middle of the road. Well, 38%, actually, it's actually quite higher than what I thought. So maybe that's one sort of way I can get a leg up on those other coaches that already own him. And if he does bomb it, who knows, he could come out and smash it in the second game and, have one of those games of old. But I wouldn't advocate bringing him in just because there's so many other better options out there and guys that haven't yet had a go, like Steketee, who we spoke about, and Bo Webster and the like. So, he's pretty much the no basket for me, but I'm stuck with him.
And can I ask, why did you pick him? What was the thoughts behind that? Just curiously.
It was the same thing every single year where it's just like knowing what he can produce. Like his ceiling is just off the Richter, much like Maxi, as we know, and he's cheap as well. It's a thing. That was the price tag that really got me in and was able to start with him. And I had, the 2 double game rounds coming up early on for the Stars in the back of my mind as well. And I thought, we'll start with him and won't have to use a trade on him like other people may have to if he does start quite well. But the reverse has happened and I'm stuck with him. So it was a gamble that I guess much like those people that, much like people started with Menenti as well. That was a gamble that didn't pay off. So, it is what it is.
No, I can completely understand that. You said one thing there about looping a double game week player. Before we go on to Daz and his thoughts, I just wanted to point out that I think that is one of the most underrated things you can possibly do in BBL SuperCoach. I don't know if you gentlemen agree with me, but I think just because someone has a double game week doesn't necessarily mean that just equates to points. I think if you can loop, you should always do it. I mean, does anyone think differently regarding that?
Double games, I'm a lot more hesitant to whether I loop them or not, just depending on their role and who they are and stuff like that. Normally, no dramas at all. I'll loop anyone. I had Hardy the other day on my bench because he was second game in. So, that sort of thing. Quite double games, I need to look at it a lot more. It's not out of the question, but it's more of a hard thing for me.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I can definitely understand that. I think I've just been burnt in the past, to say the least. Like to cover all bases if possible. And I just think looping is such an underrated aspect of this. Even it's 9 rounds. We've got 9. You want to try and maximize every single point you can. I know some people think, you miss out on 10 points here and there. You miss out on 10 points every single round. That's 90. 90 might not seem like a lot, but can definitely add up in the rankings.
Totally.
Just on Maxi as well, just having a look at the fixture for round 3. For Stoyan. Obviously, the Stars play first up, and then they're playing the second last game. For those that have Connolly like myself, alongside Stoyan on the bench, you could potentially, if you've got a Heat or a Strikers player up your sleeve, you can almost wait and have a double look at Stoyan on the bench. And then because Cooper plays last, so you could almost use that as a bit of a tactic and go down that route if you wanted to.
Does Cooper hold his spot though?
That's a question, yeah.
I think he will now.
You do think he will, Daz? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll put my hand up and I didn't think he'd hold the opening. I thought Esky was sure with his pedigree. Best mates, lived with Crawley, played with him a lot. International, played all last year. I thought, no, they'll keep Cooper, but they'll just push him down the list, the batting order. But the fact they showed faith in him, I think, and I'm a non-owner, so I'd be quite happy
Yep.
from a selfish point of view not to. But I think he keeps his spot. I think they've shown their hand. They've called him a super. They think he's a future superstar. I think he holds it.
I think he holds.
Continue. Yep.
Sorry to cut you off there. I think he holds the spot, but I think now with Ashton Turner potentially being injured with that knee, you would think he's going to be unavailable. The thing that seems to make the most sense would be pushing Connolly down the order and bringing Eskenazi back in. So it's possible we might get Connolly batting 6, maybe not even bowling. So it could be his role could turn on its head. He could be really risky if you're relying on him next round, especially because he's playing the last game. We won't know. I'd want to be benching him and having that break glass in case of emergency type of player, because we don't know how that lineup's going to shift. If Turner,
I guess if you've got Stoinis, and you can put Cooper in as the loop if that's the go. I guess, but if he does get pushed down, then yeah, true. You gotta be careful.
No, absolutely. Myth, you made some fantastic points there, mate. Especially with Turner. I've seen online that he was sent for scans actually today, but they're very, very, I guess, hopeful that he's going to line up against the Gates. I don't know the extent of the scans. I mean, for all I know, he could be literally walking on one leg. But all I read was that they're extremely hopeful for it. I was just wondering as well, you mentioned Eskenazi, but I didn't realise this until very late in my planning that he was available for the entirety of last year. Yet he only played the second half. So that either says to me that, well, they don't rate him as much as we think that they do, or they're a fantastic side. So I'm not too sure that he's actually valued. I mean, he's valued, but maybe they don't rate him as much as we actually think that they do. And of course, that they love Cooper. We all know what he can do. He seems to be the golden child over there. The one thing that I think is really prominent that you've got to keep your eye on if you are going to loop, and this is not a dig at the Scorchers, it's probably a dig at every BBL club. They name half the state in their squad. Like this is, I don't know if it pisses you gents off, but you don't need to release a squad of 17 players. You don't need to release the entire playing list. Like there's no point to it. It's ridiculous. Release, maybe 13, 14 tops. I don't know. Maybe 15 is absolutely pushing it to the brim. But if you're naming 17, like, come on, please. That's one thing that if you're going to potentially chuck Connolly in over Stoin, I'd just be so worried about that. Even though they do love him, it's just there's nothing there that would indicate to me that he's going to keep that spot, other than I think he's Voges' love child. He did get put in to open the batting in the Marsh Cup, and they actually dropped Darcy Short down to the middle overs when Connolly did come back from injury. So there's clearly some connection. They definitely rate him there, but hopefully he stays around because he seems like a little gem of a player, honestly. And that DPP, I know they've got the buys coming up, but then they've got the doubles as well, back-to-back doubles, which very handy to stash someone like that on your bench that you can loop and that you can move from, I guess, bowlers to bats just to change it around a bit. I think we'll move on now. C and VC choices. Firstly, I want to ask, who did we all VC? There's only one correct answer for this round. And if it's not who I'm thinking of, then I don't know what to say. So just quickly,
well, there's two of them.
VC?
There's two shorts.
No. There's no.
The bigger one.
The one that doesn't have an apostrophe in his first name, let's say.
Yeah.
Let's be
Diasi,
honest.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I looked Das. I just wasn't confident at all, but then he came out and he looked fantastic. He really did. But who did we VC? And if the VC, I guess, shut the bed, who did we say? Myth, who'd we go?
Yeah, I wasn't going against the grain this week. Matt
Yep,
Short.
smart,
It's just too
smart man.
not
Smart
a
man.
week. Probably won't zag next week either. Sometimes it's not worth it when you've got someone that's doing both batting and bowling in form. Just don't play it with a straight bat.
Absolutely. Damo, who'd you go?
Yeah, went with the great man. I couldn't look past him. He's just a dual threat, as you spoke about, and an absolute gun. And I'm very, very fortunate as well that I kept hold of Hardy as well, because now it means that his price going up, breaking his break even. I think he almost doubled it. Means that I can now afford players off the back of Hardy and keep short. Whereas initially I was thinking of potentially passing short on in order to afford players that I'm looking at over the coming round. So that's a bonus as well. So I'm looking forward to keeping short A for a little while longer.
Absolutely. Before we get to you, Daz, again, Damo, mentioning players' prices for who we want to bring in. If we don't have Sutherland, I don't think there's anyone that's really going to break the bank, is there? Bo Webster, surely he's top price, one of the players we identified you'd want to have a look at bringing in.
I think he's about 165.
Yeah. So besides him, and if you don't have Sutherland, that's probably a lock. But I can't think of any
Rogers
other
as
players
well.
that,
But he'll drop in price, I think, potentially.
Yeah.
Break even 105. So.
Yeah. No. I just. Sorry to digress. Daz, who was the VC I see this week, mate?
Yeah, mate, it's short round, it's short season. I mean, early on, it's crazy to go against the big man, take a pod. So no, it was Matty Short as well, and it was very nice to see him and loop him straight up. Just back to the Stoinis one, I know we spent a bit of time, but my only thing with Stoin is unless he gets punted up, put up the order, I can't have him. I think he's wasted at 5, but just a quick one. Yeah, agree with the others. Like you can't have him. But yeah, the great man Matty Short, mate, was very happy to see that. It was quite interesting to see he was only 50% owned, I think, overall, and it was a lot lower in the higher ranks with different stuff as well. So good to see.
Yeah. I don't know if players just didn't plan accordingly or what happened, or if there's a lot less engagement this year and they've just made a team and forgot about it. I'm not too sure.
I'd like to know the number of people that made a mistake. Sorry, that ended up bringing in Darcy Short and maybe put the VC on Darcy Short, thinking it was Matt Short.
Yes.
Or he would have caught a few of the casuals out.
Absolutely.
Well, there was quite a few that looped in with Chaundry from the Hobart and didn't check.
Yes.
He started as captain. Quite a few in the top ranks as well. So you got to be on the ball.
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought him up, Daz, because I think there's merit in maybe foregoing, if you've got, say, 4 or even 5 Gades / stars, maybe even foregoing one of them, bringing in a nice little cash cow like Chowdhury. Not too sure of what his break even will be now, but he looked really, really good. What's your thoughts on that myth? Maybe foregoing a double game week player if you're feeling like you've got enough and trying to get ahead with a little cash cow.
I think it's just a tough week to do it. I think we're going to have, a lot of us will hold Darcy short. A lot of us will hold Matt short. Can you get all your strikers and heat out? Then how do your loops go at the start of the week? It could be a case of if you're relying on a Chowdhury, if he's the guy you bring in and you've got to play him, is that the way to go? Or is it better getting someone that's more likely to score more? Are we going to be confident that he holds his spot? Matt Wade to come in. One of Mitchell or Chowdhury drops out. Hopefully Chowdhury holds his spot. I've got him there at the moment, so I would like him to turn into a nice little cash cow. If he's starting and you get away with your loops early, then I think he's a great guy to just get in if he's holding that spot because the role looks all right.
Yeah, no, completely agree. I think structure changes so much between coaches, and that's just, it's all good and well to say, I'm bringing in player A, B, C, D, whatever it is, but obviously it's completely different for everyone's structure and how they've set their team up. What about you, Damo? Any merit to the idea, or is it just rubbish?
No, I don't mind it, actually. It really does depend, I think, how many players you've got heading into this next game in terms of Renegades and Stars. If you're well stacked, you could potentially spare a trade and do it. And look ahead. I mean, if it was a Sixers, if you're playing for the Sixers, you'd probably say maybe not because he's not come out to a double. But playing for the Hurricanes, they've got a double in round 7. I mean, there is merit to it. It means you're jumping on him a bit early, a bit cheaper as well, because no doubt he's going to go up in price over the next 4 or so rounds. So I don't mind it. But yeah, I think just on a round that's coming up to, 2 teams having a double game, I think there's probably merit in jumping on or capitalizing on that, I think, especially because both of the teams as well that have the double aren't playing each other. So that means that there's no negating risk there either. Where there is, I think it's in round 7, where the Heat, the Canes, and the Scorchers, it might even be the Strikers and the Scorchers in round 6.
Yep.
They play each other. So you've got to think about it in terms of, okay, you can double up and spread the load across both of those teams for the Strikers and the Scorchers, but they're going to sort of negate each other. So here, I think Stars and Renegades, there's separation there. So load up while we can. But I don't mind it. I don't mind the idea.
Yeah, wonderful. Daz, what's your thoughts, mate? Is it, I guess, as I said before, does it have merit? I mean, I think you said that you already own Chowdhury. Is that correct, or you don't?
No, I don't own him, but yeah, I think it's got merit. What the other guys' points are good points to raise, I guess. I guess it also depends on how many Strikers and Heat you're going to have, and how many you trade out, and how many players you're going to have, and whether you're going to have to play him, and whether you're happy to play him or not. But on the flip side, he's going to be cheap. He's going to be what, 50 something thousand, I think, or somewhere around there. So he might be the perfect downgrade to get you that player that you want, or to allow you to keep someone like Matt Short, to do your fun. So I guess it is team dependent, but yeah, I don't mind it. It's certainly something that I will look at. And yeah, he looked really good. Like, he looked good with the bat, and can actually bowl a bit as well. So he seems to have a reasonably good role there. He'd been in a lot of form previous to this as well. So now he's got his gig. You'd think it'd be pretty rough if he didn't get to go around again. But
yeah, no, absolutely. Well, moving on to the upcoming round. As we know, we've got the Gays and the Stars on the double. It's fairly important that we have a little chat about the C and the VC. What are we thinking, Myth? Are we going a bit dangerous with the VC and then hopefully locking in, say, it's just a blanket, so to speak, C? Or what's the plans? What are your ideas, mate?
Look, I think I'm going to be pretty vanilla here. I'm going to be probably looking at Maxwell VC. Again, form, he looked good in the first game. He's the guy that does all the things. He bats, he bowls, he fields. It's really hard to justify going against someone that does all 3 and that has the same class of Maxwell. There's not really anyone else in that Stars that tempts me. Like, I've got some interest in Bo Webster, but he's going to be a pod anyway, so I wouldn't be inclined to double down. So it'll probably be Maxwell, and then the backup for me will probably be Chief. Again, he's going to bat, he's going to bowl, and he fields in hotspots. There's no one else in the Gates that does really all 3. Tom Rogers at a stretch, but I'm not even sure if I'll own the guy. So, yeah, pretty vanilla for me, I reckon, next week.
Not worried at all, Maxi coming back from injury? Is it just a non-factor because of who it is?
I think just because he's I just rate him so much more than the other Stars as a VC or C option that I'm willing to take that risk, especially when I'm really confident in Sutherland as a backup. If there was no other team on a double, then I'd be a little bit more cautious, and then I'd be a little bit more, I guess, monitoring the news, seeing if there's anything coming out, and then I might go a different way. But with a good backup, nah, that's not a concern for me.
Yeah, understood. Damo, I see you're a Renegades fan. What are we doing? Are we just going to straight see a Gade, or are we going to play with the VC as well on the Star? What's happening?
Well, first up, I'm kind of split down the middle. I'm a Stars and Renegades fan because I did some work with both of the teams for my business. I'm a videographer by trade, so I kind of wear both hats. Must admit, but more so the Gades, considering how they're performing. But I think Myth's answered it straight up there. pretty vanilla Maxi. You've got to stick with the all-rounders, I think. Maxi does it all, an absolute champion. So you got to go with him first up and then opt for a Gade, obviously on a double as well. So you've got to go with Sutho. Been in ripping form with the bat and ball, so hard to look past him, I think.
Absolutely agree. Daz, do you have anything different, mate? Or
nah, mate, I don't.
Yep.
I don't think you can go different there. It might be vanilla, but it's pretty straightforward. Normally, the most logical choice is generally the right one, and both all rounders, both will bowl and bat, both good in the field, both able to go very big. Touch wood, one of them goes off that thing. But yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward. Maxi into Chief.
yeah, I think I might go a little bit rogue, and I might go maybe Tom Rogers into Jono Wales, just to change things up a little bit. That's a complete load of absolute garbage. I think
Stoinis into someone.
Yes, Stoinis into say
back him in.
a Majib. Yeah, Stoin into Majib. That'd be
Majib's taken 2 wickets in his first 2 overs tonight, by the way.
He could be a very sneaky option next
He's a
week as
sneaky
well.
pod.
Yes, absolutely.
Pod.
I think everyone will be going Maxi into Sutherland. I think it's just I don't see how that can go too terribly wrong, so to speak. And I think it will be your obviously team structure and who you trade in that will differentiate you from obviously the people around your ranks.
Here's a better question though. What score are you taking from Maxi? What VC score do you need first up that you're not taking Sutherland?
I've always been someone on a double anywhere. If it's over 100, you bank that.
Yeah, of course.
And I think I think it also plays into the hands of it's a short season as well. I know some people like to they like to play it safe here and there, and that's absolutely fine because everybody plays it differently. But when it's such a short season, I think
just to clarify, do you mean 50 doubled or do you mean 100 doubled?
Nah, definitely 100 first game. Definitely 100 first game.
Okay.
And that could be very, very simple for Maxi. Honestly, it could be leaving points out there if Sutherland decides to turn it up. But I've always been 100, just flat 100, happy to take that. Even like a 95, that's where my line would be. What about yourself?
I'd probably go 70, 80 myself, depending. I wouldn't.
Yep.
Bit less, I'd be happy with. But they're playing the Thunder straight up, so they're not the greatest of teams. Into the sixes, but yeah, anything decent you would. But if you went low, straight on Chief.
Yeah,
I think my threshold's a little bit lower just looking at the fixtures. I think even a 50, 60 from Maxi would be enough for me to be tempted. Just looking at the Renegades game, that the second game at Optus against the Scorchers just seems like a black hole for opposition points. Unless you're Chris Jordan, apparently.
Yes. Well, the man, he wouldn't know which end of the bat to hold for the last however many years, and it just turned out to be he got a 50 in the blast as well, and he decided just to absolutely slap everyone. So yeah, treated Jai Richardson like a Milo cricket kid. No disrespect to all the Milo cricket kids, but yeah, he was good. He was very good.
That was impressive. What was the fastest Hobart 50 ever? Canes.
No disrespect to Jordan, but if you're looking that up, you'd be a very, very intelligent human to have his name at number 1. I think.
Yeah,
definitely would.
And he's been around the traps as well, hasn't he? Is the Hurricanes like his 4th team or something he's played for? So finally delivered. So maybe he's found his spot.
I know he's been at the Scorchers, he's been at the Sixers. A bit of a journeyman. Damo, back to the VC and C choice. What's your line, mate? What are we thinking if Maxi comes out and I guess pops out a 60? Are we taking that or not?
Yeah, Myth actually made a really good point about Optus Stadium. I didn't actually even notice about that. So I'd probably generally around about the 70, much like the Dazzler there as well, like you mentioned, 70, 75 odd. That's kind of my threshold. But yeah, factoring in the Gades facing Perth on their home deck gives you the heebie-jeebies a little bit. So maybe I'll lower that down to maybe close to about a 60 or thereabouts. And I'll be very tempted to lock it in.
Yeah, no, that's completely understandable. And just going back against the Scorchers as well, I think just their quality, it's such a well-oiled team, and I think it might even, I guess this is a bit of adverse to what you were saying, Myth, might actually be a good thing that they might get, I guess, a few early wickets of theirs to be taken. Where if you do see Chief, he does come in. I know tonight, I think he made 12 and was dismissed, which is obviously not what you want as an owner, but being in fairly early, sees more rocks, gets his eye in, more chance of a better score. And I saw a quote the other day as well that he's had conversations with the coach that if the game dependent, the situation, if it calls for someone like him to come in, he's got no issues with jumping up the order and doing what's needed, which is fantastic for owners. Yep.
You would hope so. If they need 40 off 14 and they're sending in Jono Wells over Will Sutherland, I think that would turn a few different heads. Same if they're on 150, 3 overs to go, you're going to be sending Sutherland in. He's got that lineup. The people above him are not the biggest hitters these days, so he's going to bat unless there's no wickets falling the last 6 to 7 overs.
Yeah, absolutely. Just think they're in a weird phase at the moment, the Gades. It seems they've still got Finch there. They've still got Madison there. I know he's a lot younger than Finch, but they seem to have a lot of credits in the bank, to put it nicely. Whereas I think at a few other teams, some changes would have been made and a few shoulders would have been tapped maybe a few seasons ago. But yeah, no, I just wanted to wrap things up, boys, because we've been going for, I think it's 45 minutes now. It's been wonderful to chat some BBL at the moment, talk about our structure, talk about the week just gone, who we're looking to bring in, who we're looking to see in VC. I know I'll definitely be VCing Tom Rogers into Jono Wells. Didn't appreciate the shade that was thrown at my man Wells, who put on an absolute clinic tonight.
Take a fly on Rooster, mate. Fraser McGurk.
Yeah.
Honestly, exactly. I think before we wrap up, he has to be the most traded in player if you own Sutherland, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, everyone owns Maxi. Is Fraser McGurk not number one?
Yeah, his break-even's going to be that low.
What's his ownership? You know?
I actually don't know.
29%. 29% at the moment.
I would be extremely surprised if that's under, say, 40 next round.
Yeah.
Extremely surprised. But
yeah,
I think he'd be at number one. Yep. But no, it's been wonderful to talk with you, Myth, Damo, and Daz. Listeners, can we get everyone to like and subscribe to the pod? That would be fantastic. Also available on YouTube and Spotify. Join the Discord, SuperCoach Hub on Discord. Linktree's in the bio. And a special thanks to the best photographer in the business, Damo. Thank you very much for joining us tonight.
No worries. Thanks, lads. Thanks for having me on. And anytime you need a seat filled, hit me up. Always happy to come on.
Wonderful. Do we have anything else to add before we end it there, gentlemen?
Good luck for the rest of the round.
Yeah, have a good one, lad.
All the best.
Go well and
no more carnage.
Yes, and please do not VC Tom Rogers and captain Jono Wells. Don't do that, okay?
Which Tom Rogers is talking about?
Definitely the Stars one, mate. Definitely the Stars one.
The Stars. I thought you were talking about Tom Rogers Gades into Jono Wells Gades. It's just as much merit.
Yes, absolutely. No, it's been wonderful. Thank you all.
Thanks boys.
Thanks, mate. Good on you, lads.